2 days later, the Hummers held the official press conference for the launch of Eternamax at the Hillview Hotel. News about it had spread for several days, and with the Hummers' unceasing effort to promote it, there was a great deal of discussion surrounding it. Such an amazing drug with beautifying properties that could also improve longevity drew the attention of countless people. So the press conference, which was grandly decorated, bustled with activity. There was a never-ending stream of guests that made their way in. Right around noon, a silver Bentley pulled up at the entrance of the Hillview Hotel. When the car door opened, Natasha slowly made her way out of the car, her arms around Dustin's. As always, she was the center of attention wherever she went. It was hard for anyone to take their eyes off her shapely figure and alluring face. Dustin, who was clad in a three-piece suit, seemed to have gone through a thorough makeover. He looked handsome and suave, and carried himself with great poise. "Natasha, why are you here?" Quentin and Mr. Wangley caught sight of them and approached. "If you can be here, then so can I." Natasha answered nonchalantly. "We're here because we received an invitation from Sir Hummer." "Did you receive an invitation too?" Quentin asked with a faint, sardonic smile. Of course, he knew that Edwin would never have given Natasha an invitation. "I'm not here for Edwin's press conference, so naturally, I do not need an invitation." Natasha shrugged. "If you're not here for the press conference, then why are you here?" Quentin didn't quite get the idea. "Oh, it totally slipped my mind to inform you that I'm having a press conference for a new drug launch today too. Same day and location as Edwin Hummer's, but his is on basement level 3, while mine's on the 3rd floor. I've made sure to steer clear of him." Natasha dropped the shocking news on him. "What? You're having a press conference too?" Quentin was startled. He had sent men to keep an eye on Natasha for the past few days, and they had not reported any action on her end. Why was she suddenly having a press conference? And at the same date and location as Edwin's? Was that not a blatant sign of provocation? "Natasha Harmon, what exactly are you up to? You have nothing to your name, so where on earth do you get your courage to challenge Edwin Hummer?" Quentin was equally shocked and suspicious. "This isn't something that you should be worried about, Quentin. If you've got time to spare, you should consider more for yourself," Natasha said casually. "What's that supposed to mean?" Quentin frowned. "I heard that you've purchased Eternamax in bulk and plan to resell it at a higher price to earn some quick cash?" Natasha asked. "So what if I have? You can't forbid me from making money just because you refuse to do so." Quentin argued. "Just because we're from the same family, I'd advise you to do yourself a favor and sell off those Eternamax at a low price before the press conference starts. If you don't, you'll lose everything you have before you even know it." Natasha smiled profoundly. "Utter nonsense. Eternamax is selling like hotcakes right now. There are a whole lot of people out there who are willing to pay good money for it and yet are unable to get their hands on them. I think that's just your jealousy talking." Quentin scoffed. "It's up to you to heed my advice." Natasha couldn't be bothered to tell him more. She hooked her arm around Dustin's, and they both made their way into the hotel. She really doesn't know where she stands. Quentin sneered as he watched them leave. From the way he saw it, Natasha was simply trying to complicate the situation in a final attempt to save herself. As time went on, more and more people of the elite class entered Hillview Hotel. The Hummer's press conference was filled with distinguished guests and was brimming with activity and excitement. The Harmon's press conference, however, painted a completely different picture. It was one of desolation and emptiness, with hardly any attendees. Apart from the staff and several bodyguards, there was basically no one else present. But Natasha wasn't bothered by the low turn-up. She sat there with Dustin, leisurely sipping on wine. "Natasha, what are you up to?" Two people rushed in. It was Jessica and Ruth. "Why would you hold a press conference so suddenly without any prior preparation? Are you messing around?" Jessica demanded the moment she walked in. "I know what I'm doing." Natasha said calmly. "You know what you're doing? What do you mean you know what you're doing? Have you seen the Hummer's press conference? The place is jam-packed with people. And look at what you have here? Not a person in sight. If word got out about this, what would people out there think about us Harmons?" Jessica exclaimed out of frustration. Not only was the prescription formula for Eternamax stolen, but Natasha was also publicly challenging the Hummers at such a critical moment when she should have kept a low profile and laid low for the time being. Wasn't she just inviting humiliation upon herself? How ridiculous! "Natasha, I don't get it. You have always been one to make plans in advance and are always in control of the situation. Why have you made such a foolish move today?" Ruth was puzzled. Since they had Immorchinol, all Natasha needed to do was advertise and give it some publicity, and they would easily be able to go against the Hummers. So out of everything that she could have done, why did she pick the course of action that was most arduous and least promising? Let's not get all worked up. Here, have a seat and something to drink. You'll find out soon enough. Natasha was still full of confidence. I'd like to see what tricks you have up your sleeves. Jessica huffed as she sat down. Right now, all she hoped for was that nobody would show up. At least then, no one would spread the news about this. If any word about the press conference got out, Harmon Pharmaceuticals would end up as a laughingstock. Is this the Harmon's press conference? Why don't I see anyone here at all? Just then, an obese elderly man walked in, his face full of doubt. Dr. Shane? Jessica was so astonished. Dr. Shane was a person who rarely appeared in public. What was he doing here? After all, Dr. Shane was someone who would even disregard a prime minister's invitation if he so wished. Dr. Shane, what brings you here? Jessica immediately got up to welcome him. However, he did not even spare her a glance and walked right past her. He jogged enthusiastically over to Dustin with a huge smile on his face. Mr. Rhys, you're here too. That ancient manuscript that you gave me was absolutely wonderful. It's just that there is some information in there that I'm struggling to grasp. Do you think you could shed some light on them, please? Jessica was struck dumb on the spot. A legendary figure in the medical field, the great Dr. Shane, was actually seeking advice from a poor fellow like Dustin. What? What on earth was going on?